Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another episode of Trudge Report. We are a recovery-based podcast. My name is Sean and I am your host. I'm joined by my good friends and fellow trudgers. Please remember to listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our videos will be posted each week so you can watch episodes on YouTube and Facebook. But as always, please be sure to download on your listening platforms. Remember to like and subscribe on all social media outlets with the handle @TrudgeReportPod. We are brought to you by Stella Mix Podcast Management and our wonderful producer and editor, Miss Janine Stella. Gentlemen, good evening. Happy recording day. It's just the three boys tonight. Corey is in mourning his beloved Eagles. They lost in pretty epic fashion today, and he tried to say that his mother's in town, and that's why he's not going to be here. But we kind of all know the real story there. So R.I.P. Corey. R.I.P. to the Eagles season, most likely. But Greg, how are you this evening?
I'm great, man. Speaking of football losses and wins, coming off of a Shedeur Sanders debut and a Browns W in Vegas, baby. So I love that. I'm in the couple days into a 10-day stretch off of work, so I love that as well. We got Turkey Week. This will actually be. This episode will grace your earbuds on Thanksgiving Day. So while you're stuffing face and watching ball, we hope you take a little bit of time to, listen to this special episode and enjoy us.
Right. Put us on in the morning while you're cooking in the kitchen.
That's right. But yeah, good week. I turned the big 4-2 on Tuesday. So, no new news to report there. Trying to not turn into an old man, stay young at heart, all that fun stuff. So yeah, we're actually tomorrow and Tuesday and a little bit of Wednesday, my fiance and I we have a list of wedding venues that we're checking out kind of all over the southern half of the state of Ohio. So
let's go.
Trip. So,
yeah.
Nice.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Enjoy that stuff, man. It's fun. Danny P., the other great Midwesterner on this show. What's up, buddy?
Oh, not much. Happy birthday, Mr. Phillips. And I'd also like to give a happy birthday shout out to the twins, Mr. Colin and my beautiful future wife, Miss Alyssa. They are all birthdays on the same day. That's pretty awesome. Oh, yeah. I love that so much. We had a good week, man. We're just pounding the pavement right now for work and trying to get off work as fast as we can this week so we can go drive out to Connecticut and eat some turkey. Otherwise, I mean, it's just work. That's it right now. Nice. And we're just trying to get off. Nothing crazy to report this week. Another Giants 10-point fourth quarter loss, as to be expected nowadays. And UConn Husky lost, and we got back on the winning track on Sunday. So we're good to go.
You gonna go see your son on Thanksgiving?
Yes, we are. I'm gonna get him on Thanksgiving Day, and then we're taking the train out to Madison Square Garden Friday morning to go see UConn versus Illinois in the Garden, baby, for his birthday.
Dude.
Nice,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Yeah, his birthday's on Thanksgiving.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, on Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, happy birthday, little Dan.
Yeah, Daniel Paulson the third.
Yeah,
nice.
What
good stuff.
How do you make the decision on whether or not you're going to drive or fly up there? You do both. It's always a toss up.
Yeah. So this time it was a no brainer because of the government shutdown. So I was like, I wasn't messing with any of that stuff. Christmas. Yeah. Christmas, I can kind of plan it better because, the condensedness of Thanksgiving, kind of you have to fly on certain dates. With Christmas, I usually take 2 weeks off. So I can work around it and not pay $60 bazillion for a flight to go there, and I'll usually try to fly.
Right.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, safe travels nonetheless. We're actually going to check this out, guys. We're actually going to a wedding tomorrow, which would be Monday, a Monday evening wedding.
Oh,
over here in good old downtown Stewart at the Riverwalk. Yeah, a little Monday evening wedding, little impromptu wedding. A good friend of mine from our recovery group had been engaged for a while. Long time, I think multiple years they've been engaged, and they kind of just last minute were like, you know what, we're just going to throw something together and get married. So it's on a Monday evening in downtown Stewart. So as the rush hour work traffic is leaving, we'll be piling in to go have a wedding. and then at my cousin's house for Thanksgiving, like we normally do, which is always a good time. I enjoy the holidays as well, like you guys said, getting everybody together, the food, the football, the college basketball, the NBA basketball. It's just time off from work, a little extra golf in the mix. It's a good time, man. It's good. It's good stuff.
There's nothing like it.
Is McDonald the third ready for some turkey or what?
He's ready, bro. I'm gonna just put I'm gonna put turkey. I'm gonna put a little different food on each one of my fingertips and just have him stuck on my fingertips and see how he likes it. But he's good, man. He's growing like crazy. He's drinking so much effing milk, dude. It's not even funny. Like he's just chugging, dude, day in and day out. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
So it's good stuff. I'll have him make an appearance here soon. But good stuff, guys. So I'm really excited tonight. We have a special guest on tonight. We haven't had a guest in a while. It's a coworker of mine. Her name is Rebecca, and she's got a really cool story. And real quick, I'll say she was in foster care growing up all of her life, or not all of her life, but a good portion of her life. She aged out of the system. She works in child welfare, has been working in child welfare, I believe, for the better part or over a decade, which she'll explain. And then she has, unfortunately, a lot of addiction in her family that she's dealt with. Not her specifically, but she's dealt with a lot of people in her family, direct family, that have had addiction. So this is going to be a cool episode, just kind of how the foster care system and working in child welfare and dealing with addiction in your family, how it all kind of can sometimes, blend together and kind of make us into the people we are today. And I'm really excited to welcome Rebecca Morgan to the Trudge Report podcast. Rebecca, welcome. Good evening. Thank you for being here. How are you?
Welcome.
I am okay, getting ready for Thanksgiving, just like everybody else is.
Yeah. What are your plans? What do you guys do in the Morgan household?
I am the cook, so everybody comes to my house. So when you guys are talking about turkey and spaghetti casserole, we have turkey, ham. We're doing pot roast and oxtails, as well as a roasted chicken that we get from our barbecue guy down the road. We usually have extensive amount of people. Sometimes my boyfriend will invite some of his coworkers that live down here that don't have family. So I'm just the type, hey, you want to come through, get a plate, come on. There's plenty to go around. So I'm doing a dish. His daughter, who I call my daughter, lives with me. I have a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old that live with me. And she wanted pot roast and oxtails, and the 15-year-old wanted ham. And then my brother wants turkey. And then my boyfriend wants roasted chicken. So we just threw it all together and got all the sides. And that's basically it. So I'll be up really early on Thanksgiving.
There you go.
Cooking away.
Cool. Good stuff. Yeah. Best of luck to all that with all the cooking and all the friends and family. Very good. So I want to kind of start, Rebecca, if you don't mind. I want to kind of, you and I work together. We're coworkers. We have been we've worked for the same, or I've been with the same organization as you have since 2021. I know you've been there way longer, and we've been in the same department. I joined your department, the independent living department, a few years ago. I've always been fascinated by your story. We've talked a lot. I've shared some of my experience. You've shared some of yours. I'll never forget the day that our offices are right next to each other, and you told me how paper thin the walls are. So you had heard like my entire conversation, and I was on the phone with another recovery person, just kind of just going at talking about whatever. But and you said it, you're an open book, so am I. But I want to start professionally, if you don't mind, and we'll kind of roll into the other subjects. Tell us a little bit about what you do. I've shared a little bit, but I want, what do you do? What's your role in child welfare? What have you done besides this current role? Just kind of take us through that real quick and describe what you do exactly.
Okay, so I have been with the agency. I actually have been there 11 years this year. So for the last 11 years, I've done independent living. My role originally, up until a couple of years ago, was working with 16 and 17-year-olds that were going to age out of care, kind of like myself with when I aged out. But now I work with 13 to 15-year-olds as statute changes and everything like that. So now we've been able to make more positions. And so I transitioned over into working with the younger population. So I just meet with kids on a monthly basis. We talk about independent living skills. We do different things. Like last month, I was working with the kids on filling out job applications, a mock budget, resume writing, career exploration documents. So between the ages of 13 to 15, I'm just basically getting them ready to go into turning 16 and then doing like the career pathways plan they start working on with, you. And then prior to being with the agency, I was working at the case management agency, but that was CHS. And I worked with them since I think I was there from 2011 to 2013. And then that's when I basically just switched and went with the contracted CBC over and started independent living. So prior to that, though, prior to me graduating, because in social work, you have to do a 6-month
internship?
Yes, internship. So I ended up interning with CHS and actually got the job through them upon finishing my internship and graduating with my bachelor's degree. So even prior to that, I did my internship with CHS, but prior to that, I was working with our agency. They used to be called something else, but I was the youth worker for our program. They had a youth worker position that I did where basically I would help if you were there back in the day. When I was there, I would help like Margie, who we work with. If you were there, I would have helped you with anything that you needed. I did like flyers and reached out to kids, transported, other young adults, not children, but the young adults in the program. And funny enough that my brother actually took over my position. One of my brothers took over my position as the youth worker when I had to go in and do my internship. Yep.
Does he still work in the field?
No, he actually did the internship. He was going to college for graphic design and everything, but he didn't take to social work or anything like that. He's a good people person, very easygoing, able to get along very well with anybody, any situation you put him in. So he was just good for the job at that point. He was living here locally. So
right. And for anybody who doesn't know, and I've talked a little bit about it, Rebecca and I we don't work directly for the Department of Children and Families, or in other states, it could be any kind of child welfare acronym you have, but we are contracted by them and we kind of are under their umbrella. And when people talk about the department, they're talking about DCF, and we are essentially part of that. And I took over your position, if I'm not mistaken, when I joined independent living. I took because I have 16 to 18 year olds now, and I took over your position. And Rebecca does she does a lot of our like behind the scenes stuff. Like you need a social security card, a new social security card for a kid. Like she puts in the packet and puts in the request form, and there's all kinds of stuff Rebecca does on the back end of things. And truly, like our department would not run as smoothly without you and what you do, because a lot of that stuff we can just kind of ask her to do. And hey, Rebecca, can you take care of this and that? And it just helps us, function a lot more smoothly, which is fantastic. But what would you say has been the biggest change in the child welfare industry since you started working in it up until today? Or it could be a couple things.
I'm going to say our kids have a lot more rights than they did when I was in care. I was in care, 20 years ago. So I'm 37 now. I aged out at 18. So 21 years ago was when I was technically in care from the ages of 15 to 18. They have a lot more rights. And that has a lot to do with the Florida Youth Advocacy Group. I did mentoring with them as well. Florida Youth Shine came together in order to try to get kids throughout the entire state of Florida all together. And they would work on any problems that we had. So I tell kids all the time, back when I was in care, I felt like I had to have a court order just to cross a bridge of water. Now, you have it where prude parenting, where our kids can actually go and stay the night at a friend's house and not have to get a background check and not have to get fingerprinted and it be so invasive. So I feel like they've got a lot more rights now. Our youth do, which is a great and awesome thing. I also, the downside of it, I think, and I'm sure other people would probably agree, and it's not just kids in care. So let me just make that known now. It's kids these days in general. They just feel very entitled.
Oh, yeah.
I see it all the time. I don't like the word ethnic with them. I see it even with the 19 and the 15-year-old that I have living with me now. They just feel like they're entitled, like everybody should do something for them, or somebody owes them something. And so I see that a lot, where kids just feel like it's never their fault, that they don't want better for themselves. They just expect us to do better for them. So I think that's the biggest downside that I see nowadays. And again, it's not just with foster kids, it's just in today's society, kids are very entitled. And I mean, I don't know where we went wrong over the years, but they just feel like somebody owes them something and they shouldn't have to work, hard to get where they want to be at in life. So,
yeah. Yep. It definitely feels like post-COVID, things changed a lot.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure things were happening before that, but it definitely, that whole shutdown of schools and things that happened during COVID, I personally think it affected our kids, the ones that are, 15, 16, 17, 18, early teens, early 20s now. It really affected them and some of their just maturity level and their interpersonal skills, all that stuff,
Yes, 100%.
Very cool. Let's transition a little bit into, tell us, so you grew up in foster care. I know it wasn't your entire life, but tell us briefly how you ended up in foster care. How old were you? Under what circumstances? Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
So hindsight, DCF's been involved in my family since I was little. I mean, we were taught at a young age you lie to DCF because you don't want to get taken away from your family, because you hear all these horror stories about DCF and about foster care and everything else. So I'm originally from Michigan. So I was up in Michigan until 2000. So about 12 years old is when I came down to Florida. And that's actually where I was removed from my mother. So when we got down here in Florida, the first time we weren't put into foster care, we actually were placed with a relative. So funny enough, my mom, I grew up watching a lot of ID shows with her. So all of the, first 48s, the snaps, all that stuff I should have probably been watching at that age, but that was a being my mom thing, late at night watching, A&E and ID channel and everything like that. So, she was working for my aunt and it's her family member. I don't claim them, but my great aunt, and she owned out in Indian River County. She lived across the bridge where, the rich folk area. And so my mom worked she worked for a cleaning business. So one day we're in the van. It's me, my two younger brothers. I have three altogether, but the youngest one wasn't down here. He was up in Michigan still. We're driving. My mom's like, go ahead and get in the car. I'm going to take you guys to our new house. Now, mind you, my mom has no money. I mean, she's barely getting by as it is. We drive an old beat up van. She's working as a cleaning lady. So she starts calling my youngest brother, Justin. His name's Justin. She starts calling him Jesus. So in my mind, I'm like, she's going to kill us. Like I'm living like one of the freaking episodes that I watched growing up. Like she's about to, because we're going over the bridge. We're getting close to the bridge. She's going to go off the bridge and just kill us. Because unfortunately, people do that where, they take their lives and they take their kids with them. And I've seen enough shows that I was like, yeah, nope, she's having a manic breakdown. Something's going on. I can't let, her harm me and my siblings. So we get to a four-way stop and there's a semi truck. He's right behind us. So when we get to the stop, she's calling us Jesus. She's calling my brother Jesus. She's getting ready to go over the bridge to, again, the rich folk. This is where all the rich people live. We are completely on the other end of that. So I jump out at the four-way and there's a semi truck behind me. So I go up to the semi truck and I said, "Hey, I need you to call 911. I'm pretty sure my mom's going to try to harm me, my siblings, and herself." So come to find out, she was having a manic episode, her first manic breakdown. So DCF got involved. My aunt, who was living with us down there, which was my mother's sister, she was living with us in a home. She refused to help with us. So she told DCF, like, they got to go. They can't stay here. I'm not willing to take responsibility for 3 kids. And I'm not saying like we were the best kids. Well, we had our issues. We had behavioral issues and everything else. So they ended up placing us with my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, right there in St. Lucie County. He lived right off of Indian River Drive. And it was him and my step grandmother, which, if I'm being honest, should have never happened. Unfortunately, DCF didn't know the background. And of course, we grew up like, you don't say anything. This is family business. You keep your mouth closed. My grandfather, he physically would hurt my father and my grandmother, my actual blood related paternal grandmother. So that's where my father learned the abuse from. And so, basically my grandfather was abusing us as well. And my step grandmother, she was like one of those like evil, this evil step grandmother to the evil stepmothers. Like she was one of those. So she would basically, my grandfather would always take her side and everything else. So, he was physically harming us while we were in his custody, but obviously we didn't say anything because we didn't want to go into foster care because you hear all these horrible stories. So my mom ended up getting us back. After a while, she went through her steps, did her case plan, everything like that. We found out it was a manic episode. She was diagnosed with bipolar, other things, and was put on medication and, did what she had to do to be able to take care of us. And then about a couple years later, my best friend at the time, her mom was also a recovering drug addict. And her and my mom got together in regards to like hanging out because I was best friends with this girl in, I want to say it was early high school days. And so one day I come home and my mom and her are nowhere to be found. I can't find her. My best friend can't find her mom. So I'm like, okay, they must be out on a binge. So the best friend's mom had left us with her car. And so we skipped school one day. And I'm not the type to skip school. I was actually very good in school. So my mom at that point had been missing for a couple days. So me and her got inside the car. She had her permit and everything. And we went around Indian River County to the known drug spots to see if we could find our moms because they were missing at this point. And so we ended up getting pulled over by the police. And it wasn't because we looked suspicious. We had 2 of our other friends in the car with us. They were trying to take us around areas that we did not know that they knew. It was because somebody stole the license plate off of our car and replaced it with an expired tag. So the police had stopped us at that point. They took us into the station. And one of the, I don't know what she did there. But she was there, I don't know if they hired her just to be able to, talk to kids when they came in to keep them company.
Like an advocate of sorts.
I knew her brother and she was like, "Rebecca, like, I know you're not the type to skip school. Like, what's going on?" So at that point, I didn't know about, oh, she's a mandated reporter. So I'm like telling her what's going on, not thinking that she was going to call it in, but that's her job. She has to call it in. Right. So she ends up calling it in. The police and everything, my friend goes home with her dad. They call my dad, who happened to be down in Florida at that point, and he's like, "I'm not coming to get her." We didn't live with him. I really didn't have a good relationship with him. So they ended up letting me go with her father. Her father came and picked her up. And then a couple of days go by, our moms and them come back. But at that point, DCF was already called. So when DCF was actually coming out to the home, I wasn't staying with my siblings and my mom at that point. I was actually staying with my friend's father and her mom and everything. And the mom got a phone call and basically said, "You have to drop Rebecca off to the DCF office with the investigators." Worked in Indian River County. And if you don't drop her off, then, you're going to end up getting a charge for abating, her. Right. So I ended up having to get dropped off to the DCF office in Indian River County. And at that point, my brothers weren't there. They had already picked them up earlier, and my stuff was basically sitting there packed up in garbage bags. So they had already been out to the house, packed my belongings up. My brothers were already placed, had no idea where they were at. And then I basically went to a foster home in St. Lucie County. And it sounds terrible. It does in the beginning. It really does sound terrible. I mean, it was the splitting image. Okay, here comes a kid in foster care. They're walking around with garbage bags. Like, that's exactly what it was. I ended up going to a foster home. I called my best friend because I was in the office like all day. They were trying to find me a placement. And unfortunately, in care, it's hard to find placements for teenagers. Nobody really wants to deal with the teenagers because, right. We have our attitudes, we have our behavior issues and everything like that. So what ended up happening is they found me a placement in Fort Pierce. And they were like, this was the PIs at this point. They're like, go ahead and just change into your pajamas, take one pair, an outfit to wear tomorrow. We'll be back to pick you up in the morning. I get out to this placement, and unfortunately, the lady, I'm the only white one there. Now, mind you, Sean, you know me. My significant other, he's black. My stepkids are black. That's basically where I've always migrated to since I've been down here in Florida. I've always just gone with them in regards to a lot of things because they were more accepting of me growing up. So this lady she is a black older woman, and she had Spanish kids placed in the house, black children. I was the only white children. She didn't like white people. She did not. So I was actually placed in a foster home with a racist, complete and total racist. So they're like, oh, we'll be back the next day to get you. I was like, okay, I can deal with it for a night. The next day comes, they don't come. I don't have any contact information to call anybody. I don't have any contact information to call my mom, to call my siblings, to know where my brothers are placed at or anything. The next day comes, nothing. So at this point, I don't have any clothes. The lady's refusing to buy me anything. I have to go to summer camp with the other kids. She doesn't give me any sunblock. I'm very fair-skinned. I burn going out the door, okay? Nothing for my lips. So I'm getting fever blisters. I'm sunburnt. She refuses to wash my clothes. So I'm actually going into the bathroom at night and taking bar soap and washing out my underwear in the sink because this lady refused to do anything for me. So DCF ends up coming out, and I don't know if it was something to do with the whole entire house because they were basically talking to all the kids. And she basically had threatened me. She's like, you're going to tell them everything's good there, or else. It got to one point I was sharing a room with one of the girls, and it was a very tiny, tiny little window because this foster home was actually in the projects in Fort Pierce. So it was in the avenues. And I'm a big girl. I've been a big girl all my life. So she accused me of sneaking out this tiny little window that my thigh couldn't even get through. Okay. So I'm like, God, man, you really hear these horror stories about, kids getting taken away and they're being put into worse situations than they're coming out of. So after 2 weeks of constantly doing this stuff, I actually got assigned a case manager. And I'll never forget her name. Her first name is Monica. I won't say her last name, and I have really bad memories with names, but she was like that light, that savior, because she actually came and got me, took me out that house, and actually got placed with my best friend at that point because they were doing a home study on his mom. So I ended up getting placed with her, and I was there for a couple months. But then Section 8, because she was on Section 8, basically said, you can barely take care of your own kids. You need our assistance. How can you expect to take care of somebody else's kids? We're already helping you with your 4. She doesn't belong to you. Either she leaves or, you're going to get your Section 8 taken away. So I ended up having to go into care. So I had to leave my best friend's home as a relative, non-relative placement and go into foster care. And that's actually where I met my foster parents that I stayed from the ages of 16. I just turned 16 until 18. I actually stayed with them until I was about 20. Best foster parents, great people, great case management. So like I had the horror story going into care, but I actually had a really good placement. I actually had a really good case manager. The first one, I mean, I had multiples over the years. I remember her and I remember a few others. And then it just so happens that one of my case managers towards the end of my stay in foster care, we actually work with him now. He's the case manager still in Indian River County. So it was a horror story going
let me
in.
Let me pause you there for a second, because what does it feel like? You were 15 when all this started, right? I think. What are the feelings going into this situation, going, like from leaving your best friend's house, having to go into the service center, to go to this random lady's house, the horror story you described? What are the feelings surrounding that?
Oh, I was traumatized because you also have to understand I was a parentified child. So my 3 younger siblings, I raised them. So when I did not know where they were at, especially the youngest one, that was my baby, when I didn't know where they were at, like nobody would tell me anything. So it's like,
and how old were they? How old were they when all this was going on?
Oh Lord, I'm so not good with numbers. My youngest is 30. He's about to be 30 this year. So he was around 10, maybe.
Oh,
so
wow.
10, I think 10, 12, and maybe my other brother was a year younger than me. So probably about 14.
Yeah.
So I have a 10, a 12, and a 14-year-old that I have no idea where they're at.
Were all 3 of them split up as well? So it's like each one of you was in different places where they kept together?
So no, I think all 3 of them went to the same placement at first, and then just dealing with their behaviors and their issues. One was separated, and then the 2 youngers stayed together. Two youngest
which
ones.
We know that keeping sibling groups together in care is a really difficult thing as well, let alone teenagers or adolescents or preteens.
It is. And I will say this, my youngest one, the one that I consider like my child, his name is Tyler. He ended up coming to my foster home, the lady that the foster parents that I ended up like aging out of care with, that I literally would call my mom and my dad, like, cause they were awesome, great people. When he came to stay with us in that foster home, I didn't actually want him there because now I'm having to take a step back as a parentified child, and I'm having to allow this other person to parent my brother, who, like, to me is my kid. So I would bump heads with my foster mom because she would make, like, I didn't like how she was treating my brother. And it was more so like, I don't like her telling him what to do or anything like that, because I felt like he was my responsibility. And so I had to like take a step back, because at that point, here I am, a 16-year-old, and I never had a normal childhood. I'm always taking care of, my brothers, making sure my mom's not, dead in the room because she's OD'd, things of that nature. So it was kind of like, I don't know where they're at. It was traumatizing. It really was. I'm sitting in the DCF office talking to my best friend, Daryl, at the time, who I went and stayed with, and I'm crying. His mom's like, we're going to figure something out. Don't worry. And then, I get dropped off at this foster home by a PI, and they're like, I'll be back to get you tomorrow. And here I am for 2 weeks straight, either wearing clothes that are too small or me having to wash out the same pair of underwear because you're refusing to wash my clothes with the other kids because I don't know what you think I have. But it was traumatizing. It definitely was. And being away from them was traumatizing to a certain extent. But I will also say that, and I don't know, maybe it's just me and I'm weird like that, it was a relief to a certain extent, because now I'm 16. Like I got to the point where I didn't even want to do visitation with them, because it's like, hey, that's taking time out of my day for me. Like, because I worked, I went to school full time, and I had a full-time job working at McDonald's, like, since I was 15. I always had a job. So I really didn't want to do the visitations with my mom. I didn't care to do the sibling visits, because at that point, it's like, I finally at 15 am getting a break from having to be a parent. Not even just a parent to my siblings, but a parent to my parent. So,
which we could have a whole episode on that kind of stuff.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I mean, I wasn't, I've never been in foster care, but I did come from a single parent household, and I had to do a lot of growing up early on to help take care of my little sister. And I think it's manifested itself in two ways now. Number one, when it did come time, like in my late teens, early 20s, for me to while out because I didn't have those kind of responsibilities anymore, I did, and it went kind of crazy. But I feel also too, and you know, you can tell me how like it manifests in your life now, but like I feel like now too, like control is a weird thing for me. Like to have to give up control, and like when things don't go according to plan, I know that I struggle with that a little bit, you know, because I like things nice and neat. And if I make a plan for something, it's how I like it to go. And when it screws up, like it screws me up a little bit, you know, and I have to kind of like regulate that within myself. So I don't know if that's how it works in your
No,
life.
I can completely 100% agree with that. I have a lot of trauma that has taken place even as an adult, and I've gone to therapy. I did it when I was in care. I did it as an adult. But in regards to now, I'm impulsive. So like if there's something that I want, I'm very independent. I don't really like to depend on nobody because I've been let down so much that it's got to the point like I don't like to borrow anything from anybody. I'll try to do it myself before I'll ask for help. So that between being, too independent, and then um I'm an impulse shopper. Like I don't want to wait for something. If I want it, I want it now. I didn't have that growing up. So if I
Right.
have the means to get it, or if I'm putting it on a credit card, I'm going to get it. And I'm not going to wait till, hey, what did you want for your birthday? Like, no, I'm just going to do it for myself. Like, so that is a very big thing that, came over. I also have issues with, I'm a people pleaser. I go out of my way to sit there and please people, even though they're the same people that probably wouldn't. I'll bend over backwards for you, but you won't even bend over forward for me. So that has also stabilized in my life as an adult. That I tend to. I'm still a parent. I try to parent everybody. I try to parent my best friend. I try to parent my significant other. My younger brother has kids that basically I help raise. And, I'm the pillar of the family, but there's a lot of things that, as an adult has um, not come to pass in regards to how I am, because even now I try to do the right things by people that shouldn't even have like the time of day for
Right.
me. So that ends up becoming a thing inside itself, because like low, let's see, what could I say, or how could I say it? Low self-esteem to a certain extent, and that goes over to being adulthood for my childhood. I actually grew up, my grandfather, the one I was placed with him, he used to say all the time that I was going to be 16 pregnant with the N-word baby and not do anything with my life. And I was overweight, and that's the only reason why Black people like you, because you're too fat to get a white man. I mean, this is at 12, 13 years old. I heard him talking to my mom one night, and I had lost a lot of respect for her, because instead of sticking up for me, she had just agreed with him. And I was out sleeping in the living room, and I heard like all this derogatory stuff he was just saying about me. And so and that's another thing. I'm very spiteful. I'm a very spiteful individual. So you're going to tell me I can't do something, I'm going to make sure that I do it just to show you that I can do it. So I ended up, graduating from high school, graduating from college. I've never had a child of my own. Funny enough, I can't have kids of my own. But the point was, back in the day to him was I wasn't going to be anything in life.
Right.
And, this is coming from a man who he used to work. He had a company that was contracted with Ford. It was Taurus Molds. So he used to actually make car parts for Ford. So he had money. We actually had decent money growing up. Like he had good money, but my step grandmother actually ended up taking that all. When he ended up dying, we didn't see a dime of it. My aunt, his own daughter, didn't see a dime of it. But that's also because his my step grandmother had basically changed his will while he was on his deathbed. So my aunt didn't even get anything out of it too. So I've kind of had that. You grew up with it. You had all these things that you could have had as an adult that, I could be better off in life financially and stuff like that right now, if probably I was never put into the situations I was put into, or if I was the, yes, granddad, I'll do whatever you want to say type or whatever, whatnot. But
Right.
um, at this point in life, it is what it is. Like, I don't, that's one thing I will say is I don't regret going through anything that I went through because I wouldn't be where I'm at today. When I asked to stay in foster care, it was because I knew that my mother couldn't give to me what foster care could give to me.
Right.
I aged out. I was able to go to college for free. I had a good support system. I had a good case manager. The agency was a well-rounded agency. Like my story was a positive story, and like I share it all the time. And what really came of it for me is like, don't get me wrong, I still got my own issues, but the best things that came out of it would be Margie. I've actually known her since I was 18. I met her, she was working in placement, and then she came over to IL, and she wasn't my worker, but I knew her through that program.
Right.
And she's basically my second mom. My mom, before she passed away, she used to say all the time, I'm so glad you have Margie. I'm so glad if I die tomorrow, you have Margie. And it's funny because my mom's middle name's Marie and Margie's middle name is Marie. So if I wasn't in foster care, I would have never met her. And then funny enough, my best friend who loved to pieces, her son is basically like my son. We would not be friends if we had not met each other while I was doing my internship. We have nothing in common besides we're both plus size women and we're white with brown hair. Like, that is the farthest it goes as to having anything in common. But my best friend, Kristen, while doing my internship, she's one of the case managers at CHS. And she actually helped get me hired as a case manager out there. So we've been best friends since 2011. So here we are in 2025 going in 2026. And between her and Margie, those were the two best things that came out of it outside of finding what I wanted to do. Because when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I got put in foster care, I knew I wanted to be some kind of change or help be the change for kids in care. And that is basically what fueled the fire for me to actually decide I wanted to do social work and to go to high school, graduate high school, go to college. And I'm here now with like the lady that I call my second mom and my best friend of years. That's basically like my sister. She's even really close to 2 out of the 3 brothers that I have. Like, they call her and depend on her for things as well.
So what would you say then to a 16-year-old girl coming into foster care for the first time? If you had to pick, I don't know, 3 things or whatever, what would you say to that girl?
I would probably tell them it's not as bad as you think. You're here for a reason. Whatever's brought you here, I tell kids this all the time, and it's a nerdy thing, but it's a Harry Potter quote that Dumbledore used to say. I've barely been on Harry Potter. It's not what you were born to be. It's not what you were born to be, but what you decide to do with your life. Like, who you are today has nothing to do with your past. So like, let it go. If you're in a better predicament now to make a better life for yourself, take advantage of what's in front of you. These are tools in your toolbox to help you build your table, and then you can pick and choose who you want at that table. At the end of the day, like, foster care, and I see it all the time, kids do decide they want to age out of care because they know that they have more opportunities presented to them. Like, and don't get me wrong, I say it all the time too. We walk the same path, but we're in different shoes. So I tell kids all the time, my biggest thing is I didn't feel sorry for myself. So a lot of times I don't feel sorry for other people because there's always somebody that has it out there worse than you do. There's so many horror stories that I've seen from other kids while I was in care and heard other kids' stories to what I've seen as a case manager, not necessarily in our area, but like the things that you read that happens to end up on the news, and things of that nature. So with a kid coming into care, it's more so, prove to whoever sat there and said you couldn't do it, that you can do it. Take this time and actually focus on yourself, because now you don't have all the problems that you had while you were living at home, and you don't have that stressor. You don't have the stressors anymore. So now it's time that you can actually focus on yourself and do better and be better. And unfortunately, that's another thing I try to tell kids too, is to a certain extent, because some of them do want you to pity party them. I'm not big on that, because I came into care, I did what I had to do to get where I was at. And I never once said, my behaviors is because it's my parents' fault, or I'm the way I am because of something that's happened to me. What your past does not define your future. It's completely up to you to want to be what you want to be, who you want to be, and everything else. And then spite will take you a long way in life. Unfortunately, it's an so what negative in some aspect, because you shouldn't do things out of spite. But spite can also be used in a positive way. At least that's how I looked at it. Because I'm going to spite, you're going to tell me I can't do something, I'll make sure I do it.
Yeah. So transitioning a little bit, because I know it all ties in. You have a lot of family addiction history. Is that correct? You have a lot of people in your
both
family
sides.
addicted. Yeah.
Both sides of the family. Yep.
Go real quick. Just tell us who in your family. I'm sure there's extended family, but like specific related family then, today, all that stuff. Who's addicted?
So my dad actually died when I was 18 from a drug overdose. Funny enough, well, it's not even really funny, but he ended up dying from licking a patch, and it just instantly killed him. So I grew up with that. He was a drug addict and a drug dealer, but at one point or another, it was just weed for him. And then that kind of opened the door. Marijuana kind of opened the door to the other things. My mom, she basically met my dad, and he turned her on to drugs. Like, he was her drug dealer. They got together. His brother ended up dying from a cocaine overdose when they were in their early 20s. And then my mom has done basically every drug that you could probably think of. There was times I've seen her doing it. I've seen the little aluminum, I'm trying to think, the Brillo pads, not the Brillo, but the aluminum kinds. The scotch, you know what I'm talking about? The little pads you would use in the kitchen. I've seen them take that and use that somehow to like do a line with. I've seen the teaspoons, I've seen the needles, I've seen it all growing up. So that has transpired into my brothers using, all three of them. Two of them they use marijuana, recreational, as they put it. And then I have one that, unfortunately, he was the middle child of my family, and he was the one that got abused a lot by my father. And he basically is a walking meth poster. Like, if I was to show you a picture of him when I seen him in jail a while back up north, he literally looks like a walking meth poster, like what you see somebody, what they looked before, and then you see somebody that looks like a skeleton now. And it really, it's disturbing. It really is. But the drugs that he chose to use over the years has severely impacted his mental capacity. And unfortunately, I don't think there is a rock bottom for him until he's dead in the dirt. I don't think he's ever going to reach it. So.
Wow. And you've been kind of not so much as caregiver, but a form of guardianship for him, or payee?
Yeah. So when my mom passed away in 2019, she just passed away in her sleep. I think it was just all the drug abuse over the years and her just being tired. My brother he was like another version of my father. He was very emotionally and verbally and physically abusive towards my mother, and she was his payee. I didn't know half of the stuff that was going on, because here I am living my own life and I'm still trying to help my mom. I'm still being a parent to a certain extent for my mom, to her, and help her out. And then when she ended up passing away, I ended up taking on the role of the payee for him for Social Security. So so basically what he did to her, he would try to do to me. But what it came down to was just verbal abuse every month, or harassment, because he wants his money, constantly getting kicked out of one place to be on the streets, or calling me from random numbers. I've had drug dealers threatening my life because he owes them money, and they have my phone number because he used their phone to contact me through. And I don't deal with it as much anymore because actually just this past last year I stopped being his payee. I stopped doing it in January of this year. From time to time, he still calls me. I actually just looked him up the other day to see if he was in jail because I haven't heard from him in a couple months. So it's either he's in jail, dead, or just hasn't reached out to me.
Yeah.
So,
have any of those threats from drug dealers have those ever transpired into like some really close calls and
no, but I would say. Um, I would say more so. I think it's because they're not local. This is all up in Cocoa and Palm Bay, and I live down here in St. Lucie County. So I also do have cameras around my home. I do have no trespassing. I own my property, so I have the no trespassing. I do have firearms, things of that nature. So I mean, it hasn't ever gotten to that point. I hope it never does. I usually just block them and go on about my way, but I also do keep records and screenshots of things just in case, something ever did go wrong. So unfortunately, my mom put up with a lot of the foolishness and then it went over to me because my other siblings won't have anything to do with him. My youngest has been very clear, like he ever steps foot on my property, like I don't mind putting a bullet in him because they don't like him. They lived with him for a few years up in Orlando. My mom lived with him too. And he actually got my mom hooked back on drugs. The oldest of the boys, the one that's a current drug addict. So my two younger siblings that were like, we dealt with him. And crazy enough, and this is how bad his addiction is because when we were like 18, 19, I needed somebody else to be on a lease with me when I had just moved out of my foster parents' home into my own apartment. And he got on the lease with me. And I was like, I can't live with this because I didn't realize how bad his drugs and everything was. I paid him $20 and got, I was like, I'll give you some money or whatever, whatnot. So I think I gave him some cash and he basically went and bought weed with that and took his name off the lease. So you basically just went and made yourself homeless just to go get a bag of weed. Like that's how bad his addiction was. And this was when we were 19. He's 36 now. So unfortunately, like everybody says, you have a breaking point, you have a rock bottom. I don't see him hitting it. I would have thought that when my mom passed away, he would have wanted to do better with his life because, now his only lifeline is no longer here. And it's not. He's not. He gets arrested at least once a year. He's a felon. And he was just arrested just in February for methamphetamine. And like I said, he is literally a walking meth poster. He looks like a skeleton. It's disturbing.
Yeah. Do you view, we obviously being in recovery, the three of us have a very specific idea of what addiction is and how it affects people. Do you view it as a disease, a mental health issue, a social issue, a moral issue? What would you, a combination of that?
I think it's a disease. I think out of everything, it's a disease. I mean, it's hereditary. Alcoholism runs in a family. Like you can get it from, and again, that's one thing I'll say. I'm glad I don't have that habits. Unfortunately, my habits of choice is a shopping addiction. I have addiction to shopping. I love to shop. But to me, it definitely is something. It's a disease. It's something that's a disease that people are going to fight for the rest of their days. And I've been to AA meetings with my mom. I've met her sponsors. I've heard her sponsors speak. And these are people that are 20, 30 years sober. And they're like, every day, I still fight that urge every single day. So there's a combination of things there. But I really do think it's a disease that people fight on a daily basis. So I commend you guys for being sober. I really do. When, like you said in the beginning, when you were sitting there saying the paper thin walls and stuff, I wasn't meaning to eavesdrop. I just know some other people, but when you sat there and came out and told me like, I would have never thought that just based on how you carry yourself today. That it's amazing how much people can change and do the right thing. But unfortunately, that's something that is going to be there for the rest of their lives. Like my mom said it all the time. And with her too, she has mental health issues, severe mental health issues that, medicine would cope with it. And then pills, and sometimes you get addicted to the pills and things of that nature. So I've always been very big on, if I ever went to the hospital and they gave me oxys or perks or anything, I'm like, I don't want them. Or they made me feel nauseous all the time and things of that nature. So I try to stay away from that. I can go, I can have a drink tonight and not touch alcohol again for months. So I'm blessed in that factor because I don't have what my parents had. So mental health as well as drug use runs really big in my family. So it's definitely a disease. Definitely a disease. I think social factors do take part in that too. I think it is, mental health as well. All that stuff ties in together, but I do think it is a
lot
disease.
A lot of co-occurring stuff that we hear.
Yeah, just
the
a lot
mental
of the
health
things
and
that
drug addiction.
To this, so I will say this: everybody, it's so quick for people to be like, "Just cut them off, just cut them off, just cut them off." Like until you're in that situation, you're never going to understand it because this was my younger brother. This was and again, to a certain extent too, I felt like I was doing my mother a disservice in her death because we got really close prior to her passing away. That if I didn't help look after him, I always knew, like, Becca, if anything ever happened to me, please look after my brother. But I blame him for my mom passing away. I really do. I feel like she just decided to give up. Her body was just tired. And because of the stuff that he had put her through, so much craziness, even at her age, and just the mental abuse. To this day, he blames me for her dying. I don't know how I was actually all the way down in Miami when it happened. But I've gotten to the point now, I still struggle. I still struggle with it. My brother, I had worked some OT not too long ago and I had like extra $300 in my check. And his ex-girlfriend had texted me and she said, "Hey, Becca, I just seen him on the streets. He's walking around with no shoes and only has a pair of pants on." And, we're in Florida, like that cement's hot. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and buy him a homeless kit, like everything a homeless person out in the streets would need to survive with. This was a couple months ago. And I said, I'm gonna send it to your house. I'll pay you $50 to go Uber it to him. And at this point, if I tell anybody else, they're gonna be like, "You're stupid for doing that. Like, why would you waste your money? Stop giving in to him." But at the end of the day, he's still human. And I struggle because I'm not fighting the same demons that he's fighting.
Right.
And to a certain extent, like, he's still my brother at the end of the day. I still worry about him. A lot of people say, "I don't know why you do," but I still, like, if I didn't care, I wouldn't check the jails to see if he's there. I wouldn't be like, "Oh man, it's been a couple months. I haven't heard from him. That's not a good sign. That's not a good thing." And I try to take it back now. Funny enough, I had seen a TikTok of somebody that said they had a out of body experience. My mom was really religious. And during her times of, her issues and everything like that, she turned to God a lot for guidance and everything like that. I'm not sure if that's something that you guys do. And I know some people don't like to talk about religion, but I had seen something not too long ago where somebody had an out of body experience and he was sitting in line and he'd seen some people up in front of him, and all of a sudden a hole would just open. He was up at the gates in heaven, supposedly with an out of body experience, and a hole would just open up and swallow people. And he heard people screaming. So as he got closer and he heard God talking to people to get into the gates, God had said something to him saying, "What is that I see in your heart?" And so the guy was like, I guess there were seeds. And he said, "Those are seeds of hate in your heart because you haven't forgiven people. So how do you expect me to forgive? Why should I forgive you if you haven't forgiven others? And basically I've forgiven you for all your sins. Why should I let you into my kingdom when you haven't forgiven those people back on earth? So you still have hate in your heart." So in reality now, that's what I'm working towards, not having no hate towards my brother. I do struggle with it daily, but at the end of the day, I still try to look out for him the best that I can, in the capacity that I can, because he still is human. I don't know what all he's been through. I'm sure he's been through a lot. He has his mental health issues, just like everybody to me in the world has mental health issues. They just deal with it better, than others. So I still struggle with it a lot. People think I should have nothing to do with him. He's a lost cause. And to me, he is too. But I owe it to my mom. I feel like still trying to look out for my brother. And I just want to get to that point where I don't have hate or animosity towards him, because I know he is fighting demons of his own. But I don't know when enough is going to be enough, but I don't think he's ever going to hit his rock bottom until he's literally buried into the ground.
I wish you well in that journey, Rebecca, because I the three of us can attest, having that resentment and having that hate, it eats away at your own soul the longer you have it. And it isn't easy. And I'm an only child. I don't even know what it's like. I know these guys have different experiences with that, but you and I have talked a lot. And I, number one, thank you for coming on this show. I thank you for your courage. I thank you for being an open book. You said it from the very beginning. When I approached you about this a month ago, I was like, are you okay talking about some of this stuff? Because it can be sensitive for some people. And you said,
I'm getting over here. I'm teary-eyed now talking about it, but that's good. I can prepare for this all day, every day, but I'm not really good at storytelling because there's so many things that like I could have went into detail with, but it's just like I said, the one where the person's having the out-of-body experience and God's telling you, like, why, if you can't forgive people on earth, why should I forgive you to let you into my gates? Like that hits home. It does. And, some people are like, oh, that's a crackpot right there, sitting there talking about that. Like, you sound crazy, but it's there. It's like, it's true. Why should he accept us if we can't even sit there and forgive others? Like, he forgave us. We took his only son. Like, his son gave up his life for us. So, you know what I mean? So,
listen, we definitely don't shy away from God on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So talking to the right tribe right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm terrible at storytelling, so you guys have to forgive me. I can prep for all this stuff and everything else, and sometimes it just comes out well, and other times it's me trying to get the words to form out correctly. But
you did a fantastic job, and one of the main things we always want, especially with a guest like you, is we want it to be real and genuine and raw, and it definitely was. So again, I thank you. I respect you so much. You've taught me a lot in my current role with the organization and just, everything. I know Margie well. I know Kristen, your best friend, well, you know what I mean? And
our agency is great. It's great. Awesome. And like I said, I had a great experience aging out of foster care. Yeah. It was a good thing that happened to me, and there's so many benefits to it, and it's gotten so much better in the last 20 years. So.
Well, we thank you so much, and maybe one day we can have you back on for some of the more wild stories. We like a good crazy story. The three of us have many of them. But thank you again, Rebecca. Again, this episode will air on Thanksgiving, so please share this with your friends and family if you, as you see appropriate. I know we talked about some of them tonight, but as you see appropriate. Our job is not only we want to have fun, and we do have a lot of fun, but we want to get a positive message of hope and recovery out there to the people. So thank you again. Shout out to our listeners. Please like, follow, and share on all socials at Trudge Report Pod. You can email us at trudgereportpod@yahoo.com. Send in your mailbag requests for topics, questions, comments to any of these handles. Remember, we are all here. If anyone wants to talk about recovery and our experiences, or if you're struggling with some form of addiction. Thank you again to Janine and Stella Mix Podcast Management. Good night. God bless, and may you trudge the road of happy destiny. We will see everyone next week. And happy Thanksgiving, boys and girls.